starting.
This mic's jacked up, dude. Did you set this one up?
I just moved it over there. I didn't position it.
What's up, guys?
Oh. Whose is that? I'm going to go in airplane mode so we don't get that.
Same.
That's weird. I haven't heard that in years.
All right, start again.
Welcome back to the Dangerous Show.
What's up?
Talon side in the house. Living the van life. Chad in the house.
What's up, homies?
What's up?
We're doing it.
Feels like you guys were just out here, separate trips, but
Yeah.
not that far apart.
Chad's been here for like a month now.
Chad
Yeah.
lives here now.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's a
Temps driveway.
permanent fixture in the driveway.
Chad and I have been trying to do videos together for the longest time, and like we always are just on the opposite side of the country from each other.
Yeah.
It's true.
We did like the Rim Rocker last year after VanWILD.
Wait. That was the last trip we all did together.
Yeah, and that was the first time like him and I actually did van stuff together.
Right.
Which is wild because we've known each other.
Like not
forever.
even filming, just camping.
Yeah.
Camping, yeah.
Just hanging out.
Yeah.
That was fun.
And then for the past month, I'm like, oh, you're in Colorado, like doing moto stuff with Tim. I was like, damn, I should really go out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's been
And
fun.
here we are.
It's been fun.
we're
Yeah, it
at
has
it.
been.
So at least you brought your moto out, Talon. Wait,
yeah,
never mind.
about that. I don't
E-bike.
think you guys can convince me to buy a dirt bike. I'm just
You
not
could
good on a dirt
Just
bike.
ride one of mine. It's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that.
That's what we should do, really.
That's what we should do.
That would be actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, you could take the 450. You've got yours. I'll ride the 701. That would be awesome.
The film crew can be on dirt bikes.
Yeah, I'm sure that we're going to get no footage.
I'm just gonna die. I don't even have a bag to carry my camera stuff in. It's got to sit in a vehicle.
That's the hard part. Like, now that I've been like wanting to do more moto video stuff, like as soon as I get on the bike, I don't want to stop to film. I just want to ride.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard even to stop and take a picture.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm just going to keep riding.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same as driving because like driving, it's just easier to stop and
Yep.
dick around or whatever.
Just
but-
roll the window down and take a shot.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the great thing is you can have your camera and all this stuff, your drone sitting in the seat next to you, tripod on the floor. You just like literally just roll
Yeah.
out the door with it.
Right. Well,
that's a lot.
you recently did a few days on the bike.
Yep.
You left your van here, took
Yeah.
off on the bike, and tent camped and all that. And the one thing that you said that I wasn't expecting to hear was, yeah, it was really hard to figure out how to charge all my batteries. And I was like, actually, I never would have thought of that. That's a
Yeah.
real problem.
Well, it's a real problem when you're in some of the like most amazing scenery in the country, if not like the world.
Right.
And you've got like a certain amount of batteries that you're trying to ration over a number of days. And I'm so used to just being a film, and then edit it out like, through editing. But I've got like 5 batteries that I have to make last. That usually I use 5 batteries in a day. And so
Yeah.
that was challenging. And so, yeah.
Like a heavy film day for me is like going through all of my batteries on everything. And then as I export or as I'm putting footage on my computer, then I'm charging everything at the same time. It's
Yeah.
like a full 12-hour process to get everything back to 100%.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll put a battery in my camera, and it'll usually last me about a month.
Because you just turn it on to take a photo.
Yeah, exactly. Turn it back off. I don't really do video much.
Yeah, I've found like once I switched over to filming in 4K resolution, then each project is like anywhere from a terabyte to 1.5 terabytes
Holy shit.
of material.
Wow.
And then I have like everything archived. I have like every piece of footage since I really started filming like in 2018.
And it's super organized too, because you
Yeah.
filmed that little video for me last week for the Grenadier, and you're like, here's all the assets. Just grab this file,
Yeah.
and like you open it up, and then there's all these folders and subfolders, and everything's alphabetized and orderly. And I'm like, what the fuck? Who has time for that? I go on my computer, and I'm like, where's that photo I took one day? And it's 30 minutes to find it. It's like, yeah, that's why you should do that.
Yeah.
I've just learned to do it like straight from as soon as you're offloading cards, start that file format
Gotcha.
and folder format and just keep it organized right from the beginning. And like even as I grab music and stuff, it's like it's got its own folder in that project folder. And so really the idea is like if you grab a project folder, it's got everything that you need.
So then if
for it.
you say you put that on another computer and then opened up Premiere in that computer, you could just browse to that folder and it'd find all the assets.
Yep.
And recreate that video.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So I could pull up the raw edited piece in Final Cut like 2 years from now. Just like bring it up and boom, there's the edit. I could change something if I wanted to. That's like the goal.
Yeah, it would be interesting to like, because I don't do that. That's the difference between like filmmaker and just guy with a camera. Like,
YouTube guy.
Chad is like basically trained filmmaker guy. I used to do that, not that crazy organized, but I would save everything just on an external. And then when I'm making 2-3 videos a week, it becomes impossible.
Yeah.
I don't shoot 4K, so that helps a lot. My MacBook now can handle it because I spec'd everything up. But like, it would be interesting, probably for me and you too, to take a project file like that with all your assets that you shot and edited, like say 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then not remembering what you created out of that, edit something with the same story, the same shots. Like, I wonder how drastically different it would be.
Like a
Like how
remaster.
your editing has evolved.
Yeah, just
over
like
the
little
years.
things that you do now to make the story move a certain way,
Yeah.
like what kind of sound you put in it and whatever.
And
Yeah.
music choices. Like music choice evolves over time as well. Like
Yeah.
your taste of music and what
Right.
you want to edit to.
Well, there's such a difference in between like what you guys do and what I hack together. And that was very apparent tonight when I was like, hey, can we just film something for a reel? And I'm thinking, yeah, we'll just take 20 minutes and get some clips and throw together a reel. And it turned into like an hour-and-a-half project with Chad spending 45 minutes
On his phone.
editing this beautiful, 30-second reel. I was like, holy shit, that's way more than I've ever
It
put in on
becomes
something.
obsessive.
Yeah. All the effects and stuff that you put in there is incredible. So, yeah.
It's fun. A lot of people ask me, they're like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel. Like, what does it take to get into it? And I think they're looking for information like about cameras and editing software, or like hints, tips, and tricks on how to make YouTube successful. And like my first thing I always say is like, you got to be passionate about filmmaking and video or
Yeah.
photography of some sort, just creating. And if you don't have that, like you're going to get burned out right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like those details that go into making something good,
Yeah, I never even considered like I mean, when I started, YouTube wasn't like this money making thing, which in today's world it's really not, unless you're like in a different bracket, so to speak. But I just always carried a camera around. I was filming my friends and I doing dumb shit, whether it was with vehicles or partying and whatever we were doing. And then I was consuming a lot of YouTube, and I was like, maybe I should just like learn how to edit, and like, which I already did. I used to make like skiing videos and shit.
Oh, yeah.
And then like I was legit passionate about it, not even really realizing it. And then that's what leads to actually being successful, because you actually want to do it.
Yeah.
You're not like, ooh, there's a paycheck involved with this.
Yeah.
I saw a little clip on Instagram from Rob Bailey. He's got a bunch of different businesses, but he was doing an interview for his podcast. I think it's Cool, Calculated, and Vicious or something like that is what it's called. But he has a clip where he's talking about one of the best things I did for my business over the years. I think he's been in business, 15 years or something. But he goes, for the last 10 years, we filmed every single thing we did for the business, whether we were playing, whether we were having buddies over and bullshitting, whether we were working or doing a project or late nights or whatever. We filmed everything and then just started putting it up.
Wow.
And building this following, this fan base of this culture that they created.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
because
people-
you don't see it now. And if you followed him right now today, you'd be like, oh, dude, this guy's totally dialed. He's got tons of money and all the cool toys and shit. And he's got a fucking racetrack in his backyard. But that literally came from just this massive effort. And then the following came from him just putting that stuff up constantly over the years.
Yeah. That's one of the best ways to start, because that's kind of how I started too. But people strive for that like authenticity of just like
A little bit raw.
like
right?
reality TV, what it kind of used to be, which is now like so overproduced and fake and staged. They just want like some real shit, and that's the best way to do it, just like vlogging, that's what I did when I started.
Yeah.
Vlogs.
Yeah, just literally talking about nothing. Just like, oh, I'm going to go take my skateboard down to the grocery store and get Red Bull. Like,
Yeah.
just set up a bunch of camera shots, and like it was cool.
Yeah. Casey Neistat was like a huge inspiration for me in that aspect of like
Totally.
how he's like such a great storyteller, and he can just make the everyday thing just seem so interesting.
Yeah.
Like, dude, this guy lives a rad life, which really he does live a pretty damn cool life.
Sure.
But
But there's a lot of grind involved in that.
Oh, dude.
Speaking of like that kind of story, I never watched a lot of Casey stuff, but a lot of Peter stuff, Peter McKinnon.
Yep.
And his story of like, he would do these short videos of making coffee.
Yeah.
Like something super mundane, and he was so passionate about it, and he would post it as a story, and he's like, yeah, there's something cool about putting all this effort and work into this clip that's only going to be available for 24 hours and then it's gone forever. And he's like, he'd do this crazy edit of making coffee in the morning, and it was super, super cool, and he's like, yeah, and then it's gone. 24 hours and it's gone.
Yep.
That's
And
interesting.
he was
Like,
just passionate about it.
Yeah.
when I was just up in Alaska, I don't know what got into me, like, because I didn't even really think about it that way, but instead of posting photos just from my phone as a story, they always look like shit when you're taking them on Instagram. I actually, like, as we went to like a brewery and we're hiking, doing whatever, I was taking photos on my Leica and then just putting it directly to my phone, actually editing it, cropping it, and then posting it as a story.
That's cool.
Just because it looks way better.
Oh, yeah.
And I enjoy like messing with photos and stuff like that. But it's like a lot of work for something that is on there for 24
Well,
hours.
and if you think about how you consume Instagram and stories,
it's just
you tap, tap, tap,
Yeah.
right through it. So yeah, so much work for just that little
Dude.
brief.
But that's also
moment.
where the passion comes into play. Like, if you're not passionate about that, like you are,
yeah.
then people aren't going to do that. And it is the extra detail. You and I have talked about it too, of like taking Instagram pictures with an actual big camera, not just pulling out your phone. Like,
I think that's made such a difference for like
100%.
all of our accounts. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you scroll through it, you can count on one hand like how many cell phone shots there are.
yeah,
And if you look at other people in our respective spaces that do the same stuff, but they're just snapping camera, cell phone shots or poorly cropped or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. I really do think it does.
100% does. And I think most people won't be able to like put a finger on it, but there's just something that they're like, there's something different
They're
about
like,
this. And
oh
it's-
man, you guys always take cool shots. Like, oh, what do you really love your photos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they don't realize what Talon's putting in to create a story,
Yeah.
or the reel that you put together that you spend an hour and a half on. You've got 30 different clips that you've cut up and put together, and it's so much work.
Do you guys know Jesse Driftwood?
Not off the top of my head, no.
I think he's might be from Canada as well, but he does like what you were talking about that Pete did, but like crazy, almost like After Effects editing for like stories. And it's the most wild shit ever. Yeah, he's really cool. I've never met him, but we've talked a few times. He's into like VanWILD and shit. But he's
And
got a
that's
cool account.
just for stories.
He'll post them as reels sometimes too, but like if I just click through his stories someday, it's like special effects and like all this like filmed on really nice cameras. I think he's a Canon guy, so he's probably shooting on like the 5 Mark II or something right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like really high produced stuff that you would expect from like a high level YouTube creator, which he makes YouTube videos too.
Yeah.
But it's just like, dude, all that effort and then it just goes away.
Yeah.
And like a minority of your audience actually sees it.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know about your story reach, but my story reach is like a fraction of my following.
Really?
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never looked at those metrics really to see story reach versus post.
Yeah.
I'll look at analytics and see followers versus non-followers for posts and stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting too with reels. It took me a long time to figure out reels. When everybody's doing YouTube shorts and reels, my whole thing on my YouTube channel is like long format.
Super long format, right?
Yeah, yeah. And also like wide format as far as aspect ratio.
Oh yeah.
And so when it came to like figuring out how to do these interesting little 30-second bits that were like 9:16 vertical, I just couldn't wrap my head around it for the longest time.
Yeah.
It's
I hate
kind
it
of a
too.
real pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because you can't use any asset really.
Yeah.
Unless you shot it on something super huge and wide. You
Yeah.
can't crop down out of that to get to a 9:16
Yeah.
or 60:9.
Even if you're shooting on something crazy like a 8K red or whatever, even if you can crop it and it still looks nice, it's not going to look like you shot it like natively, so to speak, like
Exactly.
actually turning the camera.
Yeah.
So
That's what I end up having to do is like shoot it natively like vertical.
yeah,
If
I
if
shoot
I'm-
It's a
stuff
pain in the
twice.
ass because you shoot it twice. Exactly.
Yeah.
If I'm doing a walk around on a van that we're presenting, I'll shoot it once for YouTube and then shoot it again for reels.
It's annoying.
Well, and like I always laugh like when a client's like, "Hey, I just need a short video." It'd be like literally 30 seconds. It should be super easy.
Sounds like
No, it's just funny because I find that it's way easier to tell a 30-minute story or a 50-minute story
Totally.
than it is like a 30-second story.
That's true.
Like, and especially when I talk to people about editing, and they're like, well, you do like 50-minute long videos. Maybe you should try doing like 10-minute long videos. And I said, well, actually that's more work, because when you go out camping for a day, let's say a 24-hour period, you're going to come back with 2 hours of footage, let's say, just pulling a number out.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, you still got to edit. It's easier to edit it down to 50 minutes than it is to edit it down to 10 minutes. Like, that's more work because you're working backwards.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't.
I just had
realize.
this conversation with someone the other day, another actually business owner right here in Montrose.
Oh.
Geyser.
Oh, Jonathan.
I was talking to those guys.
Yeah.
And he was asking me about all these reels and stuff. And he's like, how do you do reels? And I was like, honestly, I don't like doing them because I don't like following trendy stuff.
Yep.
And for me, it comes down to just the storytelling aspect. Like, especially when I'm like talking about a product that someone might be interested in buying, like I'm not making the video so people buy it, but I'm like, this is a suspension that I run and this is why. I can't do that in a reel format. It's like there's so much that would be left out. And honestly, I'm not even one who likes to talk a ton, but I need to process and get all of my thoughts out to make it feel like it's like complete. I can't just shorten stuff and call it good.
That's the same here.
Yeah.
I can't conceive it.
No.
Yeah, I kind of hate, like what we were talking about earlier today, like, oh, geez, here we go. I'm going to sit down for 10 minutes and scroll through reels and try to find a trendy audio that we can use that, in hopes of attracting more views, more clicks, more, click through.
Yep.
It becomes super annoying.
Yep.
After a while, because you get away from the idea, the joy of creating something because you enjoy creating art or a story, whatever it may be. And that's for sure happened to me. I think we talked about this on the last pod that you and I did, that I just got super burned out because I'm taking photos of the same freaking car. I mean, different cars, but you're taking like the same shots. You don't have time to go somewhere cool to shoot it.
Yeah.
So you're shooting different vehicles in the same freaking gravel parking lot. And you're like, okay, how do I figure out how to tell this story or make it look cool or come up with something original? And oh, by the way, I have zero time to do this. We're like trying to throw this into a crazy freaking day. I've got customers waiting on quotes and everything else. Like I gotta get creative and do something. After a while, you're like, fuck all that.
But that's kind of fun. Like even today, for example, like that's the fun part when you've got like a group of creative people around. It's kind of fun just to like
way more fun.
Put your heads together and just throw something. Like there's always going to be something funny come out of it.
It was fun because we had Dave with Dave Lesh was here, so we had him and his Grenadier, and then Talon and you, and we all just went out and fucked around, and we were doing skids in the Grenadiers and drag racing and just screwing around for an hour, and it made
skids in the Grenadier.
it made it really fun.
Dave narrated.
Where if I would have gone, if you guys hadn't been here and I needed to create a reel, I'd be like, oh shit, what do I do? Hey guys, can you pull one of the cars out so I can try to take some kind of video?
Yeah.
And it just feel really mundane and rushed, and it wouldn't have been nearly as cool.
Yeah. We were only out for like 15 minutes too, but it was like fun. We're just driving
it was a good time.
around, just like, oh, what if we do this and that? And we all are like just
that's what
ideas.
I think that's what I'm looking forward to a lot next week on our Grenadier trip is going to be a bunch of creative people, some not so creative people, but funny people to be around. And like, I think it's going to be a really good mix of, creatives and then people like willing to execute and, people just there to have a good time. I think it'll be a fun time to create some stuff.
Yeah.
And
it's a small group, which means we can move fast.
Yeah.
We're not just like, cause my creative process, like, dude, when I make camping videos a ton, I mean, kind of the same, but like when I do my truck camping videos, if someone is coming along on that trip that doesn't understand what I do, it makes my process so slow and I can't stand it. Like, it's just something as simple as like they're setting up shit in the background and they're just like talking really loud. Like I'm listening to that all the time, and then I gotta like move shit around, and that's like a first world problem and like something weird to complain about. But I would much rather camp alone if I'm making a video.
100%.
Easier.
Yeah.
Or
100%.
with a creator. That's why I camp with my buddy Mike all the time, because like when he has his camera out, I'm shut up. I'm in the background, just whatever. I'll chime in if it makes sense. Same thing like if you and I would do that too. You understand it, I understand your flow, so it just works together and we can still get shit done.
Well, we went camping over 4th of July, and we didn't do a ton of filming or creative, but it was very cool because we're both, you know, very similar personality. We're like pretty chill, go with the flow. Just want to go see cool views and ride dirt bikes and stuff. But we're always both thinking, it was like we were sitting around the campfire like trying not to do too many photos, and then we're like, oh man, the stars are really cool, or what if we did like a long exposure and got this the traffic on the $1 Million Highway. So then we set up, next thing you know, we're like setting up the camera and we're out there just doing like long exposure shots. But
it's fun because you guys
but then we were having a fun time, and then,
Yeah.
you know, it was cool to create. Like, it's just a couple of shots, but we got a couple cool shots, and you would never do that if you were just with friends that didn't create anything.
Yeah.
Because you just sit around the campfire and drink beers, and that'd be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, creating is a big reason why I like camping, because like there's very few times throughout the year where I don't have a camera. Well, I always have a camera with me, but there's very few times where I'm camping and like not filming. So when I'm doing that, I'm like, damn, I want to walk around and take photos. Like, I want to make stuff while I'm out there, because otherwise, like you said, you're sitting around drinking beer, which is fun, but that shit gets so boring after a while.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When I was working for the company I worked for 10 years before starting this business, I did a lot of moto trips, like adventure bike trips, day trips, or, you know, a couple day trips, stay in a hotel, and then, you know, just do a big trip. And that was like always the mission. It was like, I had the camera and I'd go ride, and it was awesome, like fun to ride. I love riding, I love exploring, but it was like, hey, let's go find a shot. And it kind of gives you that mission. So then you're, not only are you exploring and enjoying it, but you have like a purpose of like, I got to find the awesome shot. And, you know, it's getting close to golden hour. Like, where are we going to be? Like, I got to be on the ledge. I got to find the, you know, you're just you're always thinking like, how am I going to set up the shot? And this is just stills. I wasn't doing video at all. So, but even to just get like a couple of really banger shots, we like gave the whole day's ride a purpose, which is super cool.
Well, and the cool thing about doing it on moto is that you can move quick.
Yeah.
And I'm always a big fan of shooting around golden hour, you know, and when you have the goal of like shooting a sunset, like light moves so quick that half the time if you're driving to get there, you're just, you know, behind the 8 ball the whole time. But with moto, you can move so quick and you get to like some cool places really quick.
Like when we were up on top of Corkscrew and looking around this massive pano, and you see these roads and passes like way out there, and we're like, hell, man, we should go here. Like, let's maybe look at that. We looked at the map for maybe 30 seconds, and I was like, I think this connects, and let's just go figure it out. And within an hour and a half, we had done like a 45-mile loop through
just smashing
multiple
through
mountain passes,
down
and
to
then
Silverton, and
down
back
to
around.
Silverton, back around, up California Pass, Hurricane Pass, like 14,000 foot passes, and right back to where we started. And, you know, it wasn't even dark yet. You know, we didn't leave camp till about 5:30.
Yeah.
And we did this massive ride. And it was so cool because you can move so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, that was super fun. That's one thing I am looking forward to do is like more shooting on the bike, but using the bike as a tool to get out to like a epic spot for sunset or whatever.
Yeah, it would be really rad to have a setup on the bike that you could move really fast with as far as camera gear.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing I don't like riding with I don't like riding with big packs or bags or anything. I like riding just literally a motocross bike with like a backpack, if that.
Yeah.
And so carrying a big ass camera is such a pain, and cell phone shots just suck.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how you slice it, they suck. Like, I think the only thing I really enjoy cell phones for is like a portrait mode for something up close.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I've actually, I don't know, I felt like I was spinning my wheels for like a month and a half or 2 months, but like trying to dial in my setup on how I was going to carry stuff on my bike, and I knew I wanted to film, but I spent a month geeking out on like the right gear and the right way to carry it, and you don't really know until you go out and use it. And going out on this 6-day trip, like I was actually pretty stoked that I spent the time to dial it in.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, you spent like a week at the shop.
Yeah.
Like messing with your bike, testing the setups, like all the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've got my camera carrying on that Wolf pack or that Wolf Enduro pack vest, and the camera sits right there, which I thought was going to be kind of annoying for riding, but once you get used to it, and it's right there. So it's like you roll up on a 16, it's just like zip, zip, boom, you're shooting like before you even get off the bike.
You keep your DSLR there?
Yeah.
On your leg?
Yeah. Well, it's the R5, Canon R5.
It's like on,
mirrorless, larger mirrorless.
Just on your hip, or is it like really on your leg?
No, it's on my, I have this moto vest, and it's got these like molly strips or molly, whatever like those
panels,
straps, panels, and it's a Think Tank little carrier.
Yeah.
And it like I have it all fastened right there, so it sits on the vest.
What lens are you shooting when you're riding?
So I have a 24 to 105, and I have a 15 to 35 as a wide angle.
Gotcha.
And I kind of debated back and forth, but that 24 to 105 is like so versatile.
Yeah.
Like,
because you can almost handhold that and like vlog around, but then shoot further too.
Yeah, and like 105, even though it's not like a 200.
Yeah.
105, you can still get that long lens type look.
Yeah.
You
See,
still
that's
get
like
compression.
my thing is I love the 7200. I almost never take that thing off.
Yeah.
But yeah, riding with that, I found I was always carrying it in a backpack.
Oh yeah.
And even still, like in a padded pack, it would just get beat up, and
you
like the
feel
lens
that
would
shit.
start to fall apart or start to loosen a little bit, you know, and you have to take it in and get it tightened back up, and it's hard on stuff.
Yeah.
And I learned early on you can't put anything on the bike itself, like that doesn't have some kind of super good padding, because I destroyed a camera that way. Like having it on the hard tank of I had an Africa Twin, and it just beat the shit out of it.
Yeah. See, that's like right now carrying my drone setup. When I started putting all my backpack or my camping stuff together and then fitting it into the bags, I was like, dude, I don't have as much room as what I thought. And I still got to figure out where to carry a drone. And I ended up like compacting everything down, all the camping stuff to fit. And it left me with my, like an 8-liter duffel bag that sits on top of the rear fender, like almost where the seat meets the rear fender. And so my whole drone setup is in there. And so I was looking for like a drone carrying case that I could just put inside that bag, and I couldn't find anything. So I just went to Walmart and I got like a yoga pad or like a workout pad.
Yeah.
They're like neoprene foam.
Yeah.
Closed cell foam. And I just cut that up and like made these dividers and made a bottom and like basically made that case like a drone case. And it lasted 400 miles so far. The drone hasn't rattled apart, but it's easily accessible right there now. I just got to figure out how to charge batteries inside that same space.
Yeah, man.
That's another one of my favorite things about like vans, and I mean I don't do any moto packing and stuff like you guys are talking about, but camera stuff and just gear in general. I'm kind of a gear guy, not material wise, but just like I need the tools.
Yeah.
You're a big tool guy.
I'm
obviously.
Same thing. Like I don't like things for the sake of things, but I love having the right tool for the job.
Yeah. And I love the process of like even though I know I could really make something if I wanted to with my camera or my camera phone. I went to a camera store, like 4-level camera store in Seattle. You might have heard of
Glazers.
it. Yeah, I think it was Glazers. Yeah. And dude, I went in there with my full camera pack on my back and put my camera gear in every fucking bag in that entire store. Just like pulling shit out and like seeing what works the best. I ended up not buying anything, but it was just nice to like, dude, we were in there for like 3 hours. Like Pelican cases and all the nomadic bags and this and that. And I ended up ordering a Pelican case for my photo shit. I actually split I don't think I showed you, I split my video and photo kit into 2 different kits.
Oh, nice.
So big video kit, small photo kit. Whatever, that's nerd stuff. Hopefully people aren't bored with that.
No, that's a nice thing about a spot like Glazers. Glazers would be like the Seattle version of like BH Photo.
Yeah.
That's in New York. And
it'd be
from
like
what I hear,
going into like a Snap-on flagship store or something.
Do they have
I
retail
don't know.
stores? I don't
That'd be
think they
so
do.
fucking cool. I'd be broke.
Oh my gosh, you would
But
never
it's just-
leave.
it's just nice in this day and age, you know, everything's accessible online. Local stores just don't carry anything anymore. And sometimes you got to go in there and you got to get hands on with stuff and like feel stuff and like, oh, does this fit in here? And
especially that stuff too.
Yeah,
like,
stuff that you're going to use every day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just no different than a hand tool for me. Like I want to put my hands on it and feel it and go, is this ratchet going to feel good in my hand day in and day out?
Yeah.
That would be like the equivalent of what we're talking about would be like you need a new toolbox, but you can read the specs online, but you don't know like how much you can actually put in there. Is it going to be for just like power tools or fucking hand tools and screwdrivers, hammers, whatever?
Yep.
Like if you could walk into a store and see all the different boxes, you know what your kit looks like. So it's easier to pick that way.
You know, that's an interesting thing about building a van too. And like,
Yeah.
you know, after spending 10 years in the Volkswagen, I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. You know, it wasn't a matter of like, oh, I'm just going to go buy a van and then figure out how to put my stuff in it. It was trying to figure out how to like fit all your tools into that and how you're going to build it out to like accommodate, you know, the tools that you want to bring with you.
Yeah.
Because it is nice having those tools with you.
Yeah.
I'm about to go through that whole process tomorrow, literally. So
Yeah.
I pulled all of my Canyon Adventure van storage out of the back of my van because I'm going to put all their new Pro Series stuff in. And the setup is way different. Like it's not sliding drawers anymore. There's almost like a closet and these little cubbies and stuff. So my van's like empty right now. There's really nothing in it. But on my next trip, I'm going to be like, how does shit fit in here? And like, where does...
I've got to say I'm a little jealous of Chad's setup because he has one vehicle that he lives out of. So everything is always where he puts it, right?
Yeah.
And I have so many different vehicles that, you know, show vehicles for work and vehicles I like to drive and just so much crap. And then I live here. So when I'm getting ready to go on a trip, like when we went for 4th of July, it's stressful. You're like, dude, what van did I leave my camera bag in?
Yeah,
where's
dude.
that one freaking lens? You know, where's my chargers? Like you almost have to have a separate, you know, to a certain extent, a separate kit for each vehicle. You know,
need
separate tool set.
redundancies.
Yeah, all these redundant things. Or you're just spending a crap load of time each trip, like pulling things out of one vehicle and setting it up in the next.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of what I've done for the most part with the Volkswagen, because I have the Volkswagen back in California, and when I'm around it, I'll switch back and forth. A lot of times, like the Sprinter van's got to go into the shop at Agile or something, so then I'm in the Volkswagen for a week or week and a half. So like all the camping essentials I duplicated in that. Like it's got its own fridge, it's got its own jet boil, its own cooking and stuff. So that really, when I go into the Volkswagen, it's like I just bring the clothes that I need.
Yeah.
You know, and the
that's
camera
nice.
gear. Like I can't afford
I'm
to supply camera gear in both, but
Yeah, that would be nice. I'm in the same position as you though, because like now I have 3 main camping rigs that I rotate through: little truck, big truck, van.
Yep.
Van is standalone. Like I have the Inhabit shit that fits in the drawers. Like I have cutlery. Like you said, it's just camera stuff and clothing. But with my trucks, like I have a kitchen setup that I have to move to the other vehicle. Even like recovery gear. I have a big bag of recovery gear in the van. I have one for my truck too, but if I take another truck, I got to like move that stuff over. And like to buy that stuff again, I know it's good stuff and I know it's going to work.
Massive investment.
It's such a big investment. Just for like, in the end, it probably makes sense because it's saving me a ton of time. When I get home from a trip, I completely unpack my vehicles. Like the only thing I leave in my trucks is like walkie-talkies. And that I bought redundancies for, so I don't have to charge them in different places and whatever. But that's a pain. That's a big first world problem right there.
you know,
it sounds pretty.
It's crazy too. After living and traveling in a vehicle for so long, and I've got everything that I could possibly need in that vehicle, you get so used to always having everything right there at your fingertips. And like,
Yeah, that's true.
if you pack up and you go camping and it, you know, way up on Red Mountain Pass with your buddies on 4th of July, everything's right there.
Yep.
It doesn't matter where you're at in the country, you've always got everything. And so anytime I've had to like travel, like I used to travel all the time for film jobs and got so used to packing everything in like Pelican cases and traveling. But like now if I got to get on an airplane, I feel totally naked because I'm like, wait, how do I pack?
I don't like flying. I mean, I don't mind flying, but I don't like traveling by airplane because of that very reason. Like I went home to visit my family a couple of months ago and I'm like, wait, I got to put all my shit in a backpack.
Yeah.
Where's my gun? Where's my knife? Where's all my, all the stuff that you want to take with you that you can't.
Like my actual necessities on trips like that, like I'm pretty good at packing light because of doing it before buying a van and living in it. Like I was living in studio apartments, so I was used to being small, but it's like clothing, toiletries, and camera stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's it. So like if I can somehow combine all that shit into the perfect bag, which doesn't exist, because as soon as you find one that you think is good, you're like, I wish it did this better, that better. Like, dude, it's a never ending chase, like finding the right storage for stuff.
Man, I think for me, the best setup all around for my lifestyle at the time was my very first Sprinter van, the red one. I don't know if you've ever even seen pictures of it.
Is that the moto one?
It was just a moto van. It was super basic build out. I had like a big toolbox in it, a bed I could move up and down, and then I had all my gear for all the seasons because I was traveling all over the place for work, and I didn't have a storage unit at the time, so it was just the van. And I always had 2 motorcycles in the back, 2 bicycles, a road bike and a mountain bike. I had my skis. I had cross-country skis, downhill skis, backcountry skis.
What kind of carrier do you have on this?
Bro, I had it all inside. There was no carriers on the outside at all.
Was it an extended?
170 extended.
2 bikes, 2 motorcycles.
2-wheel drive. So, dude, I didn't know shit about van suspension setups or anything at the time. So it was a low van anyways because 2-wheel drive. But it was, dude, I wouldn't have to put a ramp out to load my dirt bike. I just pop them, just kind of dump the clutch and pop a little wheelie and literally just roll it in because it had the little step on the back. So it was super low. But, dude, that van had everything for all seasons. Had like a drawer. The top drawer of the toolbox was all snacks, like food. So I could, hey, I'm going backcountry skiing. Just grab a bag, throw the snacks in there, grab my skis, go. It was so dialed.
Dude, that even like to this day, like we have a lot of material things to like do our jobs and whatever, but that way of living sounds so nice. Chad's kind of doing
Chad's doing it. Yeah. But that was, I would like go to work and make a living, and I had accommodations at the job site so I could kind of spend, evenings after work sort of organizing the van or what have you. But yeah, when it came to time off, I was like, whoa, where do I want to go? Arizona? Do I want to go ride Glamis? Do I want to go to the mountains and go skiing? Like I had it all in there. Nothing I didn't need. Just everything I needed was in that vehicle. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And then the more spread out you get, the less fun it is.
Yeah.
You're like, I got a storage unit. Like a couple years later, I was working in one area, so I was like, I got a storage unit. Put more bikes in it, and then pretty soon you're like, okay, well, I got to spend a few hours loading up before I take off on a weekend because I gotta figure out which bikes I want to take and which gear, and now look at this whole shit show here. I mean, we got 15,000 square feet of space and
so
shit everywhere, way too many vehicles, and you're like, oh man.
I just experienced that too, like coming back from Alaska. I'm sure you were out on a trip somewhere and you're like, oh damn, I really want to ride mountain bike right now, but your bikes aren't with you because they're in a storage unit. Yeah. And like I didn't even think about bringing a bike to Alaska because that's like too long, too much shit outside, whatever. But on our way back through, we stopped in Whistler, and I've never been to Whistler in the summertime, but dude, Mecca for like just standing at the bottom, like in the village, just watching everyone ride around their bikes, and they're all like hanging out. The jump lines, like their park was insane.
It's insane, yeah.
And have you ridden there?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, I really wish I had my bike right now.
You should have rented one.
Yeah.
Ashley was with me.
Oh.
And she probably would have just hung out in the van, but I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Tim would.
I would have rode
her, dude.
Yeah, that's it is hard. Like, well, I've got a storage unit now. It's tiny little thing in San Diego, and yeah, like my mountain bike's there. I think I've got like 4 bicycles in there, and now the E-Ride Pro, 2 dirt bikes now.
Right.
Dirt bikes at Brandon, so I don't store that in the storage. But yeah, that's one of my favorite things about living in a van is when either family or friends are like, hey, do you want to go camping next month? Like, yeah, we're going to go camping on the 17th. And they spend like a month planning, prepping, packing, shopping for all this stuff. And they're like, a week out, they're like, "Are you ready to go?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, just let me know
Been
when
ready.
you want to go, and
I'll
I'll just turn the key and go."
Right.
And you literally just go. There's no planning for camping
Yeah.
when you live in your van full time because you're always ready.
Yeah.
The only plan I have is like extracurricular shit. So it's like someone hits me up in the winter and they're like, "Yo, do you want to go camp?" I'm like, "Sure." I'm probably going to bring skis with me. Or now, while I'm here in Montrose, I just put a new rack on the van for bikes. And there have been so many opportunities just in this year so far where I'm like, damn, a bike would be nice right now. I just don't have a good way to carry it. So new bike carrier, I'll either have a electric dirt bike or mountain bike. And then when I'm camping, I can go and explore all this other shit around me. So
Or like this weekend, we're going to go to the van show in Evergreen.
yeah.
And we're all going to have bikes. And there's trails right from the park where the show's at. So I'm stoked about that because we can all go do something. And it's super easy now with the carrier right on the back.
Yep.
It's super convenient. And then you get to go and explore so much more than just walking. In a case where you have to leave your van in one spot.
Yeah, because like camping and like especially going to an event like we're going to, like expos are great and all, but if you don't have a plan to do something else, you are there the entire time. You're standing in a fucking parking lot, and it's like, damn. The Revel Rally that was in Purgatory, I didn't realize they had that giant bike park there. At the mountain, and I was like, damn.
I didn't either. That would have been awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, because we rode up to the base of it.
Yeah,
to get dinner.
we're right at we're on the mountain essentially already. So.
Yeah, at Evergreen they have a whole trail network right behind the venue.
Yeah.
Josh and I went and rode there last year in the morning before the show kicked off, and it was awesome because you go blast around for an hour and a half, and then you feel way better about standing around in a parking lot all day.
Totally.
Yep.
You've never been to an Adventure Van Expo, right?
No, I've been to the Overland Expos, of course. But yeah, as far as an Adventure Van Expo, I hear everybody talk about them.
There's so many of them. It's hard to not talk about them.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing, right? Like,
yeah, I had never been to one until last year, Evergreen.
That was your first one.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is close to home. I was like, that's cool. And then this year I did Scottsdale, I did Boise, and now Evergreen. I wasn't even planning on doing those Scottsdale and Boise, but I was just like in the area.
Yep.
It's like, all the homies are gonna be there. I'm just gonna go. So
that's a big thing for me. Is like it's more of a social event of
totally
going to hang out with people and camp and
I feel like the reality is most vendors are going because it's a social thing.
Yeah,
there's peer pressure to go or whatever it may be. I don't know if the value is truly there for vendors in this day and age with the internet. I don't know. I think there's pros and cons, but
it's more of a community thing at this point.
Yeah.
And Adventure Van Expo has that aspect to it, which Overland Expo, I hate to talk shit, but they're kind of losing that, dude.
Right, true.
Like this year, I mean, I've only gone to Flag this year, but everything just seems like a money grab. Yeah. And like after hours, it seems like they didn't want people to just like hang out. Like, of course, if you're in the camping section, that's one thing, but like you couldn't hang at the exhibitor booths. Like, we're all friends, and like after hours, it should be like camping. It's overlanding. Like, it's main concept of it.
Yeah, I will give that to the Adventure Van Expo. It's definitely still that. It's a community, and after hours, all the customers come and mingle with the vendors. Or a lot of times, it's a good social thing. So you get to hang out with your vendors, your vendor buddies that you talk to and buy stuff from all year long. Yeah. And then kind of mingle with the customers that hang around. And what's interesting though is like there's a lot of customers that go from AVE to AVE just following the circus around.
That's
and I think
crazy.
It's crazy, but you see it all the time.
Well, it's probably because of that community aspect.
The tribal thing,
Yeah.
That's their people. I'm like, dude, why don't you just go do some camping trips with your friends? But not sit in a parking lot.
Yeah, and we say that's crazy because there's like 15 shows. And they're not like, it's not like a circuit. It's like this way, that way, and then back this way.
Wow. And people go, dude, there's people in Washington right now that go to most of them that are up there for some event, some van event. Like all the way in Washington. They were just down here in Colorado for an event in Natarita.
Natarita.
Oh, yeah.
That hippy dippy event over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about now too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just go back and
They-
forth
all over the
It's
country.
crazy. That's
Like,
Yeah.
don't you have jobs?
Yeah. 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 Even my first Overland Expo was just a couple years ago. And I heard stories from years past that it used to be much more of a party after hours and stuff. And I mean, to me, that sounds like fun. That sounds like the best
Yeah.
part about it. But now it's like everybody takes off and goes to hotels. It's like as soon as that 5 o'clock hour is done,
Yep.
everybody's like poof.
Yeah, we
I
talk
don't
about that
like
all the time. I don't leave.
Yeah.
I stay on campus. There's a very few exceptions where I'll go out to dinner
Yeah.
with somebody, but I always end up back at campus. Someone's I say on campus. That's a Dave thing.
Yeah. This
But
was-
I don't like leaving. I like to just stay there. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, I'm in a van. I've got everything's it's camping.
Yeah.
Like, let's hang there.
Well, that's kind of the cool thing about like John and Agile. Like those
Yeah.
guys always set up a little after hours thing, and everybody's always hanging out there around their booth, and they kind of stick around and
Yep.
Yeah.
hang out. And, like,
That's what we need more of.
yeah,
Yeah, the whole corporate feel, which I think is maybe what's happening with a lot of these companies. They've got a lot of employees. They've got a lot of people there
Yeah.
that, hey, guess what? You drew the short straw. You got to go to the expo this weekend.
Yeah.
They can't wait to get the hell out of there at 5 o'clock and go to
Yeah.
their hotel room or go party or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think there's a lot of employees that aren't necessarily into this. You know, for
Yep.
them it's a job,
It's a job.
and they got to go to this expo, and they can't wait to get out. You know?
That's a good point. I mean, I know a lot of people across just the overland industry as a whole, like people who don't even use their own products.
Sure.
Like they somehow got into it, and like this is a thing that they make now, but like they're not the ones out there using it, which is beneficial to someone like me because that's how I make the relationships. I'm like, hey, you want me to test this thing? I do it multiple days a week, and
Yep.
like I know what's good and what makes a good and a bad product. But yeah, there's a lot of people who are like yeah, I don't camp. I'm like, dude, you're selling camping products. Like, what do you mean you don't
You
camp?
don't camp.
How do you even get into this in the first place?
Yeah, I think when I started the business, that was one thing that appealed to a lot of customers when we were actually building vans, was that we would build vans during the week, and then on the weekends, like Steve and I would go out in our vans with our dirt bikes and
Yeah.
camp and use them and come up with cool new products and features to put in them, and people could see that and sense that and be like, oh yeah, dude, these guys actually use their shit. They're not
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
building a product. And I think now the industry's evolved a lot, and there's a lot of really big companies now that are just making products that they think will work, and people are pushing and selling those products that yeah, like you said, they never use them.
That's the crazy thing about going to an Overland Expo, is the amount of booths.
Yes.
And
Oh my
each booth
gosh.
has like some crazy little widget that they have
Yeah.
come up with, or a variation of the 100 other widgets that are out there.
And
to,
you know
like,
what
go
it's
camping.
starting to
It's
feel like
crazy.
now is the Overland Expo starting to, in a small way, become a little bit like SEMA,
Oh,
where you
yeah.
go to like each
Yeah.
floor of the building, and there's fucking 6 different Chinese companies making exhaust tips. And then
Yeah.
there's 6 other
Yeah.
companies making air tools, you know,
Yeah.
and you're like, and it's just rows and rows of booths of people making this stuff, and the people selling you the thing, they've never used a freaking air tool in their life.
Yeah.
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 I will say, like, it's similar to SHOT Show too. SHOT
Yeah.
Show has been like that. That's why I don't go anymore. But SHOT Show and SEMA I've only been to this past year. But I'd go to SHOT Show and just leave like disappointed. Like, I didn't really see anything cool. Yeah, I hung out with all my friends, but like there's nothing innovative. There's nothing that like caught my attention. I will say though, at like Overland Expos, there's generally at least 1 or 2 companies that I've never heard of before that came out with something, and I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty neat. Like maybe I would like find a use for that, or maybe
Yeah.
I'd like to try that.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows, dude? With the way the world's going right now, I don't know. I don't know where I'm gonna be. I don't know where the world's gonna be in the next couple months. So
You know,
Yeah.
on that same line of things with products and camping, like how about YouTube and the amount of like content that is overland based? And do you feel
Yeah,
we haven't had this conversation in a while, but like feeling diluted with so much camping and
I don't
overlanding
know.
content?
I don't really follow that much in the camping overlanding space, honestly. Like if I'm consuming YouTube content, it's almost all diesel performance related or a little bit of redneck stuff,
Yeah.
but it's almost all like car shit.
Yeah.
So I don't really stay tuned into the overland stuff much.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat too. Like I honestly don't watch a lot of YouTube anymore. So I don't even know like who's out there doing stuff that's kind of like similar to what I do or what you do.
Yeah.
But when I am consuming content, it's like to get information. I need to like learn how to install something, or like I'm just researching just something I'm interested in. But I hope that people come to my videos, even if I'm doing the same thing as the other guy. I always hope that people tune in to hear from me, because they've watched me for a long time. They know what I'm into, and they just enjoy what I put out. Like, I feel like as long as you actually have the personality to be authentic and to be likable, that's really what is going to create longevity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see that a lot with my customers that come into the shop. We were just talking about it today. You know, we booked a customer today, one of many now, who's the sole reason that they found us and that they decided to come to us to have these installs done was because videos that you and I have done together in the shop.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, dude, I really love how you guys present yourself. I like how you talk. You seem down to earth and like real people, and your shop is fucking immaculate, and you really pay attention to details, and I like that. And and I love that because that's who I am. That's how you are, right?
Yeah.
And our personalities shine through in the videos.
There could be a shop right down the street from them.
Oh, well, in this case there was.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're literally going to that shop to get an oil change because it was already booked, and then driving to us for the big bulk of the installs, and it's cool. But you can have a platform that you can communicate if you're authentic on it. You can communicate and reach people. And I see it all the time when people come in the shop and I go and meet them for the first time, and they're like stoked. Like, oh, dude, yeah, it's finally great to meet you. I've watched all your videos or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you get to meet them, and I'm just me, exactly like you see on the videos, exact same person in real life. I don't think that there's a lot of, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty, but there's probably a lot of people on YouTube or on the internet that are completely different when you meet them in real life.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen a few of them, but
I've met a few personally. I would say, I mean, again, I'm not one that consumes a ton of content. I don't know every creator, but like I would say a majority of the people are pretty true to themselves. And then you have the middle ground of people who kind of like turn it on a little bit for the camera.
Sure.
Which is, I think that kind of starts from like a nerve thing. They have to like hype themselves up and like be excited. You have the complete fake people who are just like not the same person. And then you have the authentic people like Chad, and I like to think I'm the same on video too. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I used to watch YouTube a lot more than I do now. And I used to call it like market research, and I'd watch.
I'm researching.
Watching what other van life people are doing.
What are you researching? Boobies.
I used to, watch what other van lifers are doing, and then when my content started blurring the lines between van life and overlanding, then I started watching overland people, and I used to enjoy it. I was entertained by it, and I feel like now it's just so overpopulated with so many people doing the same thing, both in van life and overlanding, to where I don't find inspiration really anymore watching it. And what I used to do a lot of is like watch to see what other people weren't doing.
Sure.
And that's where the whole winter camping thing came in to play. As like, well, all these people live in their vans. I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest where living in a van involves living in the wintertime. And nobody's creating content like that. So I started doing more in content, and that just exploded. So like went that direction. Sure. But now it's like, yeah, it's interesting. I think YouTube has definitely changed a lot, at least in the van life and overlanding world.
Do you think a lot of it's just because it's diluted? There's just so many creators out there, or because I feel like there's got to be a lot of creators, but not many of them stick around. Not many of them put any effort in. I feel like it's just like any other thing in life. There's a bunch of people that think they want to do it. They do it for a little bit, and or they don't try hard, or whatever. They're just.
I don't think it's oversaturation. I think it's a combination of like YouTube, like, well, one, changing policies. Like the policies, they change them all the time, but two, like YouTube constantly trying to keep up with things that seem like a threat to them. TikTok, Instagram Reels, let's make YouTube Shorts.
Yeah.
And then there's just like, there's so much, like everyone's like foot racing to get with the next trend, and YouTube then starts taking content that previously did really well on the platform, and then they're like not promoting it to the same audiences and stuff like that because they want to get this short form stuff in front of everyone's eyes. And we just talked about that for a while, but I don't subscribe to that. Like,
Yeah.
The short form stuff.
yeah. I've maybe posted like 5 YouTube shorts since it's been a thing, and it's just because I already cut it for Instagram.
The way I see it, and I'm not in the creator world like you guys. I use social media for advertisement, to reach more potential customers. But I've made, I don't know, a handful of sales from Instagram. I've made a lot of people aware of the brand on Instagram, but very few sales are made on Instagram. But I've made a ton of sales through YouTube, and I have a fraction of the following that you guys do on YouTube. Yeah. So like with YouTube, what I find is that people who tune into our content, either they know you personally or they've been following your company or whatever, but it's a captive audience. They're tuning in and they're intentionally going, I'm going to sit here and watch 12 minutes of Tim talk about whatever bullshit he's installing today.
Yeah.
And on Instagram, sure, they might double tap because you had a cool cover shot or a catchy reel or whatever, but they're not engaging to the point of like, oh yeah, I'm going to go buy something from this guy. I'm going to go spend 30 grand at his shop. Same with shorts. I mean, it's just the long form tends to reach a much more targeted, concentrated audience than
Well, they talk about that. Oh, everybody's attention span's so short. Well, yeah, it's short when you're feeding them quick, fast content. But if you actually create engaging content that's long form, like people will pay attention.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like, people used to drill down my throat all the time, like, no, your video's got to be less than 10 minutes. And YouTube didn't start working for me until I started pushing the limits of like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes. And all of a sudden, like all the numbers went up.
Yeah. If I'm watching YouTube at night, like unwind and going to bed, if I have a video that I'm engaged with or something, a topic I'm interested in or a good story or whatever, I'm happy to watch a 25, 30-minute video. Yeah. Like all day. I would much rather watch a 30-minute video that was, creative and compelling and something as educational or whatever it may be than scrolling for 30 minutes watching reels.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
That to me is really what separates a creator from like an influencer. Because I take the term influencer as like kind of a negative thing. Yeah. Some people say it and they just, whatever. It's a personal thing. But like an influencer, if they're making short form content, like all these people that are blowing up on TikTok, they don't have to be good at telling stories. They don't have to have a lot to say, really. No. If they can just grab someone's attention for 6 to 10 seconds, that's enough for them to grow. Whereas like a true creator who is good at putting things together, that is understandable, that provides value, that's entertaining. Good with a camera. Good with a camera. Yeah. If you can do that and grow a following, not only grow, but just maintain a following, that says a lot more. Like that's what makes it hard working with brands, because like some people don't understand the difference of weight that an Instagram creator holds versus a YouTube creator. Yeah. YouTube, for the most part. TikTok. Yeah, TikTok too.
Even further.
Yeah. I mean, we get approached on Instagram all the time by people who like want to work with us, And
it's like, you don't even have the following that
you don't have
shop
a fraction of the following of my automotive shop. Like, why would I work with you? But I had people when we first started working together. People are like, other players in the industry are like, really, you working with Talon? Like, what, what's that like? And just curious. They were just really curious. Like, are you paying him? Is he paying you? Like, how does this work? And a couple of people who, I talked about like what we did in exchange were like, dude, you gave him like a lot of product or whatever it may be. Or like, I'm trying to convince other companies like, hey, dude, you should probably just give him that product and let us put it on there. Yeah. And it'll pay off. And, you get the eyebrow raise, but it absolutely works. Like I can't tell you how many times I've had people come and book stuff with us because they've sat down and watched some long form content. They became aware of our brand because they were like crazy fans of your videos or fans of your videos. You know, it's just.
And I won't even work with a brand at this point unless I would already buy their product. That's something that I like really stand by.
Yep.
So I rarely reach out to companies for anything, but if it's like a new product, like honestly, the bike rack that I just bought, I probably could have reached out to them and been like, hey, I love your product. And this is generally what I would say. I'm thinking about buying it. However, like if you happen to know who I am and know what I do, I'd be happy to like create some assets for you guys to use on your website. I'd make a video, whatever, in exchange for your product.
Yeah.
But I always preface it like, I'm going to buy this anyway. So do you want to work with me and like get some benefit out of it? Or am I just going to be a customer and then maybe not even talk about your product?
Yeah.
So it's a marketing, it's not an opportunity. This is a good point too. A lot of people look at like what some creators do and they're like, oh, you have all these great opportunities to work with these brands. But on the flip side of that, we are giving brands the opportunity to associate their brand with our brand.
Yep.
So it's like people always look at it as a single-sided thing. You get everything for free and this and that, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, like, especially now that I've been doing it for so long, it's quite the opposite. I have choices.
And it's work, dude. Like the video Chad created for us last week for the Grenadier, we shot, a couple hours we spent in the shop. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it is my point. You know, we spent time. I had guys that I paid to wash and detail the vehicle and put it on the lift. And then we had to block off that time in the shop to do the film it, right? And then he spent half a day or more editing this film. And then, you know, the whole deal to just create a 12-minute video, I think it was, a lot of man hours. And if, you know, there's very real value associated with time, you know, especially in my world where it's like every freaking hour in the shop, I know exactly what that cost me just to have the lights on. So I know what I have to turn to pay for that and have to turn to make a profit and like keep the dream alive. So for me, when I look at, hey, dude, could you make me a video? I would never go, could you just bang something out real quick? Like, should be easy, right? You know, if he spent 8 hours on it, I'm thinking in my head, like, well, 8 hours at my shop rate, you know, at overhead and this and that, like, that's a fucking expensive video. You know, but I don't think people associate the same value with creating content. And the reality is you're able to do something that reaches, you know, in your guys' case, millions of people. And it keeps reaching those people for months and years to come.
That's a good point.
That's the other point is that, I think we were talking about this the other day. There's a lot of videos that I still get calls on from the first time we made months ago, years ago, that they just keep producing
searchable content. That's the huge thing, because you know, people don't search your content on Instagram, bro. Like no, people stumble upon it,
and you might be popular for a second, but the moment you stop posting, like, that shit goes down.
Well, I think it's really important, and I feel like it's maybe starting to come around a little bit, and you might see otherwise, but like, brands need to, and people that are running the brands, making these decisions, need to understand the value and the difference between an Instagram and a YouTube.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, an influencer or a creator.
100%. And
for sure.
You know, you can tell when there's a brand that understands the value of that, and then you can tell when there's a brand that doesn't understand the value of it, you know, and how to depict that.
It's probably easy for you too, but it's really easy for me to see that immediately, like upon first email or phone call, whatever it may be. And I'm not one to sell myself. Like, if you're coming to me, I'm not in the game of explaining my value to you. Like, my value is out there, and if you can't see it from everything I've created over the past 7-8 years, I'm not going to waste more of my time explaining to maybe have the opportunity to like do something together. I'm just not into that.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I don't feel comfortable like pitching myself. I will if it's like, if they're asking for it or whatever, but
yeah,
I have a hard time like going out of my way and like throwing myself at somebody. Like, I'd rather just buy it and be done with it.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's like
getting free.
All the products on my van that I sell, that I push on Instagram and YouTube, and that I try to actively sell to customers. It's all shit that I have paid for with my money, that we've worked our ass off to get. So it's never stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, you should buy this because it was given to me. Like I paid for by and large, every damn thing on that van.
Yeah.
At least once. Maybe the second time that I went to that company after I bought it and I loved it and I started selling a bunch of it, they were like, hey, would you like a set for your demo van? Sure.
Yeah.
Right. There, but they didn't just give it to me out of the gate just because, just because I said I would promote it. It was a relationship was built. Money was exchanged for product multiple times. And I'm like, dude, this product rocks. And I start pushing it. And then maybe at that point they said, hey, why don't you put this in your demo van or something?
Yeah.
But it always started with me just investing in it and going, okay, do I actually like this thing? Yeah, actually this thing is awesome. I can stand behind this. I want to sell this and install it. So
Totally.
Well, I think it's funny too, like creators or influencers get this like reputation, like, oh, you just get a bunch of free parts or you get all this free stuff. And I'm like, A of all, there's nothing ever free about anything. And B, like 90% of the time, it's easier just to buy the product and not have to worry about creating a video. Like, I think everybody always thinks like my Baja Designs, like, oh, they just gave you that. It's like, no, dude, I paid for that.
Yeah.
Even Baja Designs thinks they gave it to me.
Like, which is ridiculous.
You told me that story.
Yeah.
I've been at Overland Expo and they're like doing a live Instagram feed of like, yeah, we're just proud to support Chad. And I'm like, bro,
Support.
I bought, like,
here's the invoice, bro.
Since then, I've become good friends with him and like I have a relationship with him now. But like, I bought those lights and that's like a huge investment. Like, and I don't know. A lot of times it's easier just to do I love the emails where they're like, hey, we're a big fan of your channel. We'd love to give you this $100 product in exchange for like
in exchange for pop. Nope.
Yeah.
No.
I just look at it from a time standpoint of like, dude, the amount of time that it takes to create something, even at like my level of YouTube video that say I put together, which you've seen it, it's nothing anywhere close to like the stuff you guys are creating, but it takes me a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm going to sit down and invest an hour and a half shooting this thing and then another couple hours editing it and then upload it and all this. And I'm in my mind, I'm just running the numbers going, dude, I could have made this much money just wrenching on cars if I went down there. Yeah. But I'm looking at it from an investment, an advertising investment in the future and all that. But I would never go to a creator and be like, oh yeah, dude, just throw this together and I'll give you like a free product. Because in my mind, I'm just thinking of like an hourly shop rate is kind of how I would like picture it.
Yeah.
What's your time worth per hour?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what does my company do annually? How many hours a year do I work? And try to figure it out like that.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, time is very valuable.
Dude, I could scroll through my phone right now because it's like this time of night where you get China emails. So like I got a bunch of emails right now. Here. Dude, you're probably the same way because we kind of do similar stuff. I get offered some kind of battery system like that.
Oh yeah.
Like maybe 5 to 10 times a day. Easily. Dude. And like most of them are hot garbage, but some of them I'm actually interested in. Like I have a ton of batteries. Like I have some EcoFlow stuff in my camper. I like Anchor and Jackery, and like I've tried all these brands, but like occasionally I'm like, okay, maybe I'll try something different. And like, dude, honestly, this sounds really kind of like a dickhead thing to say, but like if you get an email back from me and it's clearly one of those generic emails like, hello creator, and like insert channel name there.
Hello,
snippet.
Van.
Yeah, like yeah. If you get a reply back from one of those emails from me, like that's rare because I archive and delete 95% of all my emails that come in. And if you just happen to catch me when I'm like just finished editing and now I'm looking at emails on my computer and I can type it out real easily, like that's your shot right there.
Yeah.
And then like if you don't get back to me immediately, it's probably just going to go to the wayside.
Yeah. Dude, I've had companies, like I responded to one. I get a lot of people reaching out asking if I'm interested in hiring them to edit. I don't know if you get those.
Yeah, I've gotten a few people. Of those.
I responded to one person. I was just like, well, hey, because normally they're overseas. And with my projects being anywhere from a terabyte to 1.5 terabytes,
How
I'm
do you
always like,
get them there?
how are they planning on getting my footage? Because I think a lot of them think like, oh, just upload it. Like, well, I live in a van, I travel full time, which means my internet, Starlink, even though it doesn't have great upload speeds,
No.
so that's not viable. Then I don't know if they'd realize it. Anyways, I finally responded in email of, well, how do you go about exchanging the
Like the assets.
the assets? Anyways, long story short, they ended up, that's all I sent them, and they ended up like replying to me once a day. Hey, just want to follow up. Just once follow up.
Oh yeah, dude.
For like, I'm not even joking, dude, 3 months.
Yeah.
Multiple times a week of like, hey, just following up. Hey, just following up.
Dude, that will get you blocked from my inbox so fast. You're like circling back, motherfucker, dude.
Drives me nuts.
Block, spam, 100%.
How
And
desperate
dude, there's
are
a
you?
lot of companies, honestly, in even the overland space. I'm not gonna drop any names here, but there's a few super fucking annoying companies that hit you with the spam, not the spam, but like the marketing emails all the time.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
why I send out one update per month, and it's never a marketing update. It's like a newsletter.
So, yeah,
Here's
yeah.
what's going on at the HQ.
Yeah.
Not, hey, we have this bullshit thing in stock. You should buy it. This is on sale. This is a discount. Like, never.
Dude,
I won't do it.
Yeah.
those emails drive me nuts too, because I came from the corporate world. Like, I worked in the corporate world for 5 years
Yeah.
before I started doing my own thing. But when they're like doing follow-up emails and they throw that fucking corporate jargon in place and they're like, hey, just bumping this one back to the top of your inbox and like saying shit like that, I'm like, oh, I really, like, you're blocked now.
Just the one I hate the most is this, hey, circling back.
Yeah, circle back. Circle back.
Circle
Like,
this.
Circle this. Oh, it drives me nuts. And I mean, I see a lot of like kind of like memes and stuff of just like lists of that shit. Like, oh, let's put this in the parking lot for later or whatever the fuck people say.
Just gonna park this
Yeah,
at the top
we'll
of your
circle back. We need to.
park this.
Yeah.
It sounds like that movie Office Space.
Yeah, totally.
100%. Yeah.
What about burnout? Like, on both sides, like, you as a business owner, content creator, like, burnout's a thing.
1,000% burnout right now.
If
Yeah.
I did
I
what
feel-
Tim did every day, I would. Like, I every time I'm in the shop and see how you work day in and day out, and then we do something like this at 11 o'clock at night,
11:30 at night.
11:30.
Yeah.
I'm
And
like, how?
Yeah. Burnout's a real thing.
Yeah.
It affects everything about my life, from my health to my personal relationships, motivation to just do stuff every day. I mean, there's things that you can do to help mitigate it for sure, but it's real for
Yeah.
sure. Like, I definitely feel I've been pretty burnt out or on the edge of burnt out for a while, but we keep making progress as a business. There's been, I think you guys could agree, you've known me for several years now. You've seen the strides that my company has made and the people that are working for me have made in the last
Totally.
4 years. Like, we've come a long ways. And so the only thing that really keeps me going and sane is, like, every once in a while taking a little look back, zooming out and going, okay, dude, we're on the right track. We're making progress.
Yeah.
We've got problems today. They're different problems than a year ago. Things are moving in the right direction. I keep seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And so that keeps me going. But the burnout, I think the thing that I struggle with the most is, like, motivation to deal with employee problems. Like,
That's a tough one.
burnout with people. People, I guess, in general, that's the biggest burnout. Is, like, I just get tired of dealing with trying to find and recruit good help and maintain it. Constantly dealing with people problems, whether it's internally in the company or
squeaky wheel customers.
or just, because every day I have to go downstairs and I have to put on the face of Tim. And, like, I'm stoked you're here. And, dude, don't get me wrong. Like, 99% of the time I am pumped that people are there. And I'm always thankful that people chose my business to spend their money and, to support us, right? But, dude, there are some pain in the ass people out there. And every day you got to put on that good face. And even when you don't want to, you've got to, like, be nice to people and
Yeah.
be polite and all that. And that I've noticed in the last year, I've had to work really hard at that aspect of it. And I feel like it's because I have no break from it. I'm just constantly around people. And usually if it's on the weekend, I'm around people at a van event or I'm doing some kind of marketing thing. So I really never feel like I can just unplug the fucking cord and not people at all
Yeah.
Yeah.
for a period of time.
And just be Tim,
And
not from adrenaline.
Not from adrenaline, just Tim, some idiot that likes to ride dirt bikes, or sport bikes or whatever. Like, just be me.
Yeah.
So that's where the burnout is. I don't mind working long hours. I love working on cars. I love working on projects in the shop. Like, I could care less. If I wasn't working on a customer's car, I would 1,000% be working on my cars, my drift car project, my motorcycles, my whatever. Yeah, you've seen it. We hang out in the shop and it's rad. But when you have to do it to meet a deadline, like for a customer's vehicle, or you have to go and talk to all these people on the weekend, that's where I get burnout. So I don't know about you guys. Is it burnout with clients and people, or is it burnout with just like the same workflow, same process every time?
So like I would, speaking for both of us, probably we deal with a tiny fraction of people that you would deal with. Like, and because of that, I mean, I'm not super outgoing, and when I am dealing with a lot of people on a constant basis, like that drains my battery, which I guess is what introverted is kind of like meaning. So I need time to myself. I think the most, like the thing that I would, and I don't think I've experienced full burnout yet, but I definitely get discouraged when YouTube is like changing shit and stuff that I'm super stoked on is not performing like I think it should. I wouldn't really consider that burnout. I do get discouraged to create creatively sometimes, where I'm like, damn, I really got to make something. Like I haven't missed a weekly upload since my very first YouTube video.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
That's huge.
And it averages out to like probably 3 videos a week, like overall.
Wow.
So I have that set in my mind, like I'll never miss a weekly upload. But sometimes I'm like, shit, I need a video this week, and then I'm struggling creatively to come up with something. Again, not really a burnout. So like I've found balance over the years of just like going on a big trip and then making 5-6 videos when the creative juices are flowing, and then posting them just once a week. Like the Alaska trip, I filmed everything over the month, but I was only posting one video on Sunday, and it was like a 30-45 minute video. That way when I get back, I still have videos to post, but I have 2 weeks where I can kind of like chill out. So I haven't experienced like full creator burnout like some people talk about it.
Yeah.
But you do things drastically different as far as posting schedule, editing process, filming process. So like what would be your burnout?
I think definitely like creatively, always wanted to do these long format, and I get myself in a terrible like situation where every video's got to be better than better than the last one.
Comparing to yourself, that's tough.
Yeah. And, it's gotten to the point where I feel like I'm just out there creating the same video over and over again, which is...
you said that a few times last week.
Yeah. And it's cool when you find the formula that works. I remember back in 2019 when I went into a snowstorm and I built a campfire and I cooked a meal over it and it got millions of views. I'm like, dude, that's the formula. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to like take that formula and just repeat it in different scenarios, locations, like whether you're in the snow, you're in the Arctic, you're on the desert, you're on the mountain, doing the same thing, and it's always worked. But you get burned out of just creating the same thing over and over again. And for me, this is all a creative outlet for me, like first and foremost of like, and so I always want to find something that I can improve on, like maybe it's a cool camera angle, or maybe it's a cool way of splitting firewood, or like telling the story, or a crazier trail than the last one, and like what's going to push the van to the limits where people are like, what the hell?
That's funny because we actually had this conversation I think last year, because you were like, we had this conversation like, you have to like kind of one up yourself, like do the next big best thing.
Yeah.
And you like just get back from a month in the Arctic and you're like, what do I do now? Do I ship my van to Antarctica? Like it's like the Mr. Beast thing. It's like spend 10,000 this video, next video 100,000, next video 1 million, and it's just like, where does it end?
Yeah, exactly.
Just so that I could see how that would definitely burn you out after a while.
Yeah, and it's burnout to the point, especially when you're like, okay, now you're really like pushing and pulling, like grasping at things to like try and just up it a little bit. And then when you stop seeing results of like, oh damn, it's not growing as much, I'm not getting as many views, and then you're like, I feel like I'm pushing. Then it just all kind of starts wearing of like. Then you start questioning yourself. Of like,
I think
what
that
am
would
I
be
doing?
really tough dealing with that, seeing the performance degradation or the fluctuations, if you will, for you guys, because your income is directly tied to how your stuff performs online. Mine, it's less so, right? Because we have a lot of different advertising streams, if you will, most of which are just word of mouth. Brand awareness, you know, in general has grown, and then as it grows, right, more people tell their friends about it. It's just mostly word of mouth. But so for me, if I post a video that I've spent time on and it doesn't perform well, it in the grand scheme of things, it's not massively impacting my business. Whatever. I'm still freaking busy as hell, and thankfully, and you know, I try not to take it too personal, but yeah, when you're looking at you know, how each video performs, and you know it's directly tied to your bank account, I feel like that would be really easy to get burnt out if something changed in the algorithm or whatever, and you just kind of it didn't perform well, and you've been working hard and creating something better each time.
Well, and my thing is too of like, it's interesting like watching Talon and his aspect of like posting every single week, whereas like I wish I had the drive to like do that. And for me, like I just get burned out where I don't have any creativity. I'm not inspired to like go do any big project or film. And so I'll just go dormant for like a month, 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
Of like, dude, I'm just not inspired to go film or like create anything cool. And, you know, if I had that consistency of posting more often, like probably would be more successful in that aspect. But
I think your style of posting though, kind of like if you switched it up and somehow started posting once a week, I don't know if your audience would gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
Because that's not what they're expecting. Like, do you know the creator Mark Roper? He's a scientist. He
ex-NASA.
Yeah. So you ever see the videos of the glitter bombs that he would put on porches for porch pirates?
Wait, what?
It's like super viral. Like every year around the holiday season. This is probably for the last like 2 or 3 years now. So I'm saying all this to say that he makes one video a month, so 12 videos a year, and they're all bangers because he spends the whole time doing it, sometimes multiple months just to create the one video. But that formula works for someone like him.
Yeah.
So real quick, the glitter bomb thing, porch pirates in like cities around the holiday season. He was like tired of it, so he made this contraption.
What are porch pirates? I don't have a porch.
Like someone who steals packages from your front porch. So like you get Amazon delivery.
Yeah. Okay,
so
gotcha.
he made this contraption in a box that looked like a fucking stereo or something, just like a little Bluetooth speaker. He would set it out on a front porch in a bad area, and someone would come and steal it. And then when they open it up, it would just like shoot glitter everywhere. It had cameras in it, so he was documenting everything. And then the one, he made it better, or like worse, I should say, each year. The one had like fart spray in it.
Yes.
So it would just go, and the people are like trying to smash it back in the box, and like they're opening them like in their vehicles too. So it's just destroying their vehicles. And it's like, it's the most wholesome, but like, yeah, it's just awesome what he does. He does a lot of cool videos.
Yeah.
Check that guy out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where the burnout for me comes, is just like, I'm just burned out of like creating, and I just don't want to go create. And then I don't put out videos, and then income goes.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. I wish I could spread my eggs in my basket out a little bit and like come up with some other streams.
That's what has helped me over the past, like I would say 3 years now, which it's ever growing. And like I don't want to talk about this too much because it's kind of like a little too businessy, but I legit turned what I do into a business because yes, I make YouTube videos and I always say like that's where most people know me from, but I have like dedicated supporters and sponsors that are signed up for different types of deliverables essentially. So on a monthly basis, they're getting, whether it's like dedicated videos for their Instagram or photos for their website, whatever it may be. When I have people signed up for like say a year through Sci Productions, which is for media and marketing, like that gives me some kind of stability, which I previously never had.
Yeah.
Which like it sounds like you don't either because you're just like doing the YouTube thing. So
Yeah.
diversifying what I do to like still enjoy what I do, kind of doing the same thing but provide value to others, which will then support me and make my life easier. Like I'm not super worried about views overall because I'm not solely relying on that. Like I still
That's
get
huge,
discouraged and bummed, but
Yeah.
I guess the discouragement that I feel is kind of burnout, which I never thought of before, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I kind of use it. I see if I have a lack of creativity and posting or lack of creating content, like whether it be YouTube or Instagram or just a social media presence in general, I see that, 30 days later in sales, not necessarily immediately in closed sales, but I see it in like, hey, things are a little quieter right now, and it's not the time of year. It's like the phone's not ringing as much. When I'm consistent and constantly posting stuff in our style, which is more of a lifestyle type content, we're out camping, we're out riding dirt bikes and motorcycles and doing stuff like that with the vans. We're out hanging with friends at expos, things like that, or doing install videos, walkthrough technical videos. When I'm consistent in doing that, then the calls keep coming in. New people are constantly seeing it, and what's interesting is that creates its own kind of burnout because then you get way busy, and then like the volume of everything else in my business goes way through the roof, and so then my stress levels shift from like being stressed about like, oh, why are things kind of slow right now to, oh my God, how do we keep up with this? Right?
Yeah.
It's like this constant vicious
Back and
cycle.
forth, back and forth.
That's
Which is
what,
kind of a good thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah, I'm never complaining about this, but that's where my burnout comes is like, dude, I want to just maybe take a little time to unplug a bit, but you're going to see that directly in, revenue at the shop's going to kind of go down a little bit. We're just small. We're just like at that weird stage in business where we're big enough to have problems. We're not quite big enough to have enough cash to throw at the problems and make them go away. We don't quite have enough people in all the different roles that I don't have to wear quite a few hats. So, I know we're just kind of right on the edge of it where, hopefully things will shift and I can kind of take off a couple of those hats. I mean, we've had some people come on board that are phenomenal, that have helped tremendously. But, it's funny how it all ties together,
Well, and I think one aspect is like the common thing we have here is we're basically all self-employed.
Yeah.
And like I've got friends where I've, always sitting down having conversations about how to like keep moving forward. And I'm just like, I just don't feel like, going out and creating. And they're like, well, no, you got to, it's a job. And I think I kind of compare back to when I was an employee as a mechanic or a truck driver. And I could go in and, maybe wake up and just having an off day and I could go punch the clock. I could go get my truck and I could drive delivering equipment or being under a piece of equipment, turning a wrench. And I'm maybe not 100% mentally there, but I'm still punched in and I'm still getting paid.
Yep.
But when it comes to your self-employed, if you can't have an off day and just like kind of float through it. Like, you're losing out on.
Well, when we go camping 4th of July, that's the first time in 4+ years that I've taken like 3 days and didn't really answer the phone. And I still ended up answering the phone. We still had a couple of emergencies that people, insisted that they need to get a hold of me. But yeah, for the most part, I didn't like put any quotes out. It was very chill. And having time to do that is important, but then it's almost impossible to do that when you're self-employed and not feel guilty or not just directly see it in revenue down the road.
Yeah.
I very much look at what I do as a job too. Like, people obviously only see the fun stuff, but
Sure.
like when Ashley's at home and I'm like, I have to go camp. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I have I legit have to go do this. And like, she's cool with it, whatever. But like you said, you can't have an off day, because there are times where I'm out, especially on long trips, where like I should really be filming, I should be working right now, and then I'm just not in the mood. Like, the story's not going anywhere and I don't really have anything to say or talk about or whatever. It has only happened a few times, but there have definitely been times where I'm out, started film, like I film everything chronologically for the most part. So do an intro, get some B-roll shots, like this, that, whatever, and then like we get a really gnarly storm and it's just like not even cool to film in.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, dude, you know what? I'm just gonna scrap this whole thing.
Yep.
And it sucks because now I've spent all this time in gas and preparation and all the time driving somewhere to like do this thing, and now it just goes to waste. And then like sometimes I will set the camera down and then just really truly enjoy what I'm doing out there. But sometimes it's just hard. Like if you're not on it, it's like, dude, this sucks. And
Yep. I hate that feeling.
yeah.
And that's the thing too, of like, I can't just be like, oh, it's an off day, but then still go create, because my goal is to go out and create the better video than I did the last time, and like always be on like creating my best possible work.
Yeah.
And if it's an off day and I'm just not feeling it, like that ain't gonna happen. And it's not even worth like trying to like, you can't fake it.
Yeah,
You
you
know?
can't just push through that, because like, especially if you can feel it in the moment, like when you watch that back, it's gonna be maybe not for an audience, like maybe an audience would be okay with it, but you know, as you're cutting everything out, you're like, oh dude, this, like, it makes me mad to think about.
Yeah.
Like, why did I even do this?
Yep.
Like, I should have just stopped.
Yeah.
I can feel it as soon as I start editing. It's crazy because a bad, like, having a bad day filming comes through as soon as I start editing it. I can tell when I start, and like nothing's clicking.
Yep.
But when it's a good day and you're just getting all the banger shots, when it comes to editing, it's just like boom, 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 boom. Put a music on it. It's like, dude, that's sick. That's a good day of shooting.
Yeah.
Comes together easily in editing.
Yeah, best day of shooting for me is just like you said, like everything's going great, like a lot of cool shots and all this shit. I'm curious if you do this too, but like as I'm filming something specific, doesn't matter what it is, I already kind of have a soundtrack in my head.
Yeah.
Because finding music for videos for me is one of the longest processes.
Yeah.
I'll just sit
Hours,
through there and
dude.
scroll and bop, like listening to little snippets here and there. But
Like on Epidemic, just
just some kind
rolling
of
through.
music service.
Gotcha.
So I like, especially like if I'm in the desert, I want something like deserty feeling, and I can just feel it already.
Yeah.
So perfect filming days, like get all these banger shots. I'm immediately sitting down at my computer, like I want to look at this stuff right now. And then it all just flows together. You find that perfect song, and it's like, oh yeah.
Yep.
that was
It's
a
the
good
same,
one.
dude. Same. And, you know, people always compliment the music. They're like, wow, man, like the music's always so great. And
Oh,
like,
dude! Somebody commented on the video you made for us. They're like,
oh, really?
I don't know about that car, but I gotta know where that song's from. You know?
Well, and like for me, the music, like, you know, I was there and I film in the editing starts in the field as I'm shooting.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know, when I come around, and I love filming on a road or a trail or an area that I've never been before. Because when I come around the corner, I'm like, whoa, that's my cue to pick up the camera and record. Now, if I've driven that road 10 times, I come around that corner, I'm like, whatever, I've seen it 10 times, 20 times. So I like new stuff. So, and editing starts in the field of like, okay, I want this shot. Now I want this shot of the van going, like the door handle opening, the door closing, this, like that all is like being played out in my head. But then I'm like driving down through that scene, and yeah, it's always got this like soundtrack playing in my mind.
You can like hear it.
Yeah. And so when it comes to picking the music, it's like, okay, like for the Arctic, as an example, I'm driving like through these amazing scenes of like, holy shit, this is crazy. So when you play back that footage, like this was the feeling I was having.
Yeah.
Go find that music. And as soon as I hear the right song, it triggers those
Yeah.
emotions that I was having
Totally.
while driving
Yeah.
through that canyon or whatever.
I've always asked when I edit stills, because that was like my creative outlet for so many years. It's just like taking shots out on a motorcycle or truck or wherever I was driving, but taking a shot of that moment in time and how I felt, and editing to recreate that emotion. That's why I always ask people, how does this make you feel? Like I'll edit a photo and I'll like put it up and be like, how does this make you feel? Like, and just try to get 1 or 2 words and see if it clicks with what I was trying to create. Because I can scroll back through like my personal Instagram and look at all the shots from when I was out in Swing Arm City or, you know, Alaska on the motorcycle or wherever we happen to be, and look at the shot, and I can remember how I edited. I can remember the effects that I put in, or like, oh yeah, I added some lens flare here or whatever. But I can see the photo that we created, that I created from taking it in the camera in RAW and then, adding everything in and immediately feel, like you said, exactly the same way I felt when I stood there and looked at it, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And being able to create something that somebody could look at and feel the same thing, just looking at a screen is like the whole goal.
Yeah.
And I think that's really satisfying, to be able to show someone and then immediately them go, oh my God. And they feel like they were there.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I started out shooting video back in 2000, and it was cool going out and capturing images, but then putting it with music. And back then it was very, very like basic and rudimentary.
Yeah.
And I got burned out on doing video, and I said I'd never shoot video again. And I loved shooting still photography, to where you could sit down in front of an amazing sunset, have that moment with yourself and nature, capture it, do a little bit of editing, and boom, you've got like something that you could hang on your wall that captured the emotion. And now that it's come full circle back again, I'm like doing video, doing film, like there's nothing more magical than like taking an amazing shot and putting music with it. And that's one thing, unfortunately, that you can't do with photos. I mean, I guess you could like...
Yeah, I mean...
If you do
slideshow style,
yeah.
But it is not the same.
But being able to like be out in a moment, and I'm replaying like last week when I was up in the passes and like these amazing views, like you and I were up there on California Pass, and like there's a soundtrack I'm sure playing in each of our heads as we were standing up there, but like to go capture that and put that music with it, and like all of a sudden then you're like messing with people's emotions, like you got the visuals plus like the audio part of it, and it's like you can really tweak people, which is cool.
And going off of what you said too, like when I shoot stuff, I like my workflow to be really fast, because like if I'm shooting a photo, I like to put it on at least my phone and start touching it right away, because like I know how it feels while I'm standing right here looking at this thing that I just shot. So like I kind of want to get the vibe already, and then I'll go back maybe the next day or whenever I'm actually editing, and then change it a little bit more just to clean it up. That's the same way I am with videos. Like I have 2 shot videos on my computer right now that I shot this week, and like it bothers me now that I have to edit them, because like in the moment I was like, okay, this is cool, like I know how this is gonna flow. And you do this too, I don't know how you do it, but like you go back to footage from months ago to edit stuff. Like if it sits for like a week for me and then I have to go back and edit it, I really hate it a lot more, because it's not as fresh on my mind. I can't quite remember that same feeling that I had in that moment to like make it flow right. So that's why I like to do things pretty quickly.
I'm kind of the same way with stills. It's like I'll take them and then immediately want to throw the card in my laptop and edit them, or if I don't have my laptop, I'm opening Lightroom on my phone, and I'm like just doing it right then and kind of creating something. And there's times where maybe I haven't had time to go shoot, so I'll dig back through a bunch of raw files and find some cool shots and edit them then. But it's never the same for me, because same deal. When I've created a photo that I just took, I just watched that sunset, it was awesome, I want to create that same emotion again. To try and go back and do that months later is hard. Usually what'll happen is I'll grab old raw files from say last year, and say like VanWILD last year or something. I'll go find some cool shots. and I'll create it, and it'll look totally different than the edit that I did the year prior.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely different.
Yeah.
And I love doing a pretty like heavy editing on a photo as far as like color grading and stuff like that, because I like creating a strong emotional response to it.
Yeah.
But I found in the business side of things, if you have inconsistencies in the look of your photos, like on your grid, which I hate. I hate that.
I
like,
hate that too.
You know, because I want to be able to create what I feel like creating and like how it made me feel. I want to replicate that and share that. And just because you scroll through a grid and you've got different color tones, or I don't know, I hate that everything has to be consistent and blah blah blah. So
I hate that too when like the Instagram creator crowd, they're like, oh, your grid looks so nice. I'm like, dude, I'm not worried about the grid. I should say no one has ever said that to me. But like there are some people who like you look at their grid, like a lineup of all their photos, and it's all edited very similar styles, and like that's cool. But I think the more repetitions, like the more you are posting, especially when it's similar stuff, the more your style just kind of develops, and then it just starts looking kind of similar across the board, even if it's like a desert shot and then a snow shot right next to it. But yeah, I'm not one to subscribe to like, oh yeah, like here are my presets, like this is how I edit this style of photo every single time. I'll use presets, but then I'll push it around to be how I want it to be.
Well, I found it interesting too when people are like, oh, that photo's like so edited, it didn't really look that way. Like that's kind of the beauty to me in photography, and the artistry behind it is like taking just a kind of normal image and you kind of push it a little bit, but that's your art and that's your expression of what you feel like the scene
if you're looking at it from a standpoint of art, you can make it whatever you want. I mean, look at what people are doing with AI and stuff these days. I mean, it's that of course it's not how it looked. There wasn't a fucking alien spacecraft sitting above your motorcycle or whatever, but you know, that's the whole point. It's art. If you're looking at it from that standpoint of, you know, you are creating something that started with an actual image that a sensor captured, and then you're creating something that evokes an emotion. That's totally different than capturing like a true to life product photo that you're going to put on a Shopify website of a object that you're selling or something. Like, that thing better fucking look like what I, you know, what it better look in when I get it in my hands, like it looked like on the screen.
I haven't gotten that comment before, like oh, it looks fake or whatever, but I would love to get that comment, because a lot of times I'm shooting stuff like in direct sunlight. I'm like, dude, I'll show you the raw photo. And it's like I shot it this way on purpose, and it's like if I'm shooting this car in this photo right here, car is completely black. Like you can't see anything. I'm like, this is really how I shot it, but I shot it this way, so like whatever. And
so
like
highlights aren't blown. And
it's really what it looked like, but I understand why you think it's fake. But yeah, dude, it is midnight.
It's midnight. It's bedtime. We talked
a lot about
hour and 45 minutes. We
Oh,
didn't talk about who we're voting for in November.
Oh yeah,
we'll save that for next week.
Chad. Next week. Think of your answer, and we'll come to you first next week. Actually, Dave fully could have been here. We bought a microphone for him, and he opted out to go sleep, which understandable. He gets that question.
He's gonna get. He's getting all the uncomfortable.
We're
questions.
gonna get the earful for an hour after that if you ask him that question.
I'm gonna have to keep my headphones off when
just turn your volume.
You just turn his volume down.
That's gonna be a shit show of a
you
podcast.
See his mouth moving. No sound.
He was like, "We got to do short and sweet tonight. We're gonna 20 minutes. I'm gonna go to bed." I'm like, "Dude, just go to bed because we're not doing a 20-minute podcast. Let's be honest here." No, this was fun, guys. Thanks for coming on, staying up late.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging at the shop. This is always. I was telling you earlier. I was like, we got back from Applebee's, all the boys. I jumped on my dirt bike, was doing wheelies in the parking lot. You guys were moving vans around and shit, and people are just playing with tools. And I mean, we got hip hop blaring on the radio. I was like, man, this is always kind of a dream to just have like a zone where like your boys can come hang out and just mess around with cars and bikes, and it was so cool. So
that's going to be us on Monday.
Yeah, thanks for being here, guys.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having us, dude.
You bet. We'll see you guys next week. Later.